Story 1. It was ninth period, the end of the school day. Senior year of high school, ninth period was one of my off periods, so my school days would be a little shorter. A couple of my friends also had their schedules set up that way. Ryan and Scott, our third friend Tyler, had off ninth period every other day. This was one of the days he didn't have off. But since it was Friday and a nice day out, we were all texting each other, making plans to hit the beach. Tyler was talking about sneaking out of gym early to come with us, so we were waiting in the hallway by the gym. This hall was in the far corner of the school. The only people passing were students going to gym class. Tyler texted us that he was just going to wait till the gym teacher took attendance, then sneak back to the locker room and meet us in the hall. We waited there for a decent minute. He was taking a while for some reason. There's a set of exit doors at the end of the gym hall. We were standing in. It wasn't supposed to be used as an entrance yet. Here came some guy through the doors. Even though it was a really nice day out, this guy came through the two doors in the hall wearing black sweatpants and a black zipper-up hoodie with the hood over his head. He was also wearing a black backpack. We went silent as he walked past us, making a point of looking at all three of us with this dagger of a stare. Ryan stepped up and said, "What, dude? ___ off." And the guy stopped in his tracks and turned to face Ryan and asked him if he's got a problem. Scott and I stepped in and just said, "Forget it," over and over until the guy turned and kept walking. We all agreed that guy seemed extremely sketchy. He looked like he could have been a student, but none of us recognized him. He had a little facial hair, but it was kind of patchy though. A few minutes later, we texted him asking him to hurry up, and he texted back he couldn't sneak out just yet since we're on lockdown. This was a shock to us because we weren't aware of this. He said the gym teachers announced it, and everyone was hiding the locker rooms. We also just realized the doors separating the gym hallway from the actual locker room hallway were closed and locked. We immediately linked it to that creepy-looking dude dressed in all black who just walked past us. The reality hit us so much harder when there were these popping sounds from down one of the hallways. At first, they sounded like maybe a teacher slamming books on a desk as if to wake a student up or something. But we quickly put two and two together and realized they were gunshots. The sounds of students screaming quickly followed. Next thing we knew, we saw that guy in the black appear down the hall, and he was running full speed towards us. The three of us ran out the two doors that the guy entered from and all the way to the woods next to the school. In that moment, I felt the curtains of life slowly closing, the thought of death becoming a reality. I looked back twice as we ran and saw that guy was chasing us, but he was kind of far away. He screamed stuff at us, most of it inaudible. But I did make out him saying, "I'm gonna kill you." Fed. We made it to the woods by half of the fence that surrounds the perimeter of the school, and when we had a nice shield of trees covering us from view, we stopped to catch our breath. We decided to wait it out, laying flat on the ground to avoid detection. We then heard footsteps nearby. It got louder and louder until I could see him running through the woods looking for us. He ran further away from us, not noticing us, and when he was out of sight, we all agreed to run for it back to the senior parking lot. Between the running and the shock of the near-death experience we just had, I don't know how I didn't vomit. We got to my car and I drove all three of us to my house. Obviously, the beach idea was out the window. Now it later blew up on social media in our high school class group shot that one of the new teachers was shot by the guy and was sent to the hospital in an ambulance. He survived, but everyone thought he was going to die considering he got shot twice. No one knows who that guy was or why he targeted that one specific teacher. I'm sure he went after us because Ryan antagonized him. He probably waited to come back for us, or Ryan specifically, because he didn't want to alert the whole school with a gunshot. Who knows though, but that wouldn't have really mattered anyway because the school was already tipped off by a nearby house about him because he was seen pissing on their property before going to the school. Not to mention the way he was dressed on an 80-degree day. I consider this a near-death experience, and I count my lucky stars. I survived. Story 2. Back in high school my junior year, I used to get to school about 15 minutes before it started. That's what time the bus would drop us off. And after getting inside, I would head upstairs to my locker first. Then there was this spot upstairs near the stairs that had a large window at the end of the hall. It wasn't that far from my locker either, and you could sit on the ledge in front of the window. My friends and I would sit around there just about every day and talk. It was kind of a routine or a before-school hangout spot for us. It overlooked part of the parking lot and also the softball field next to the school to the east. We could also see the sun rising, and it lit up the inside really well. One day I arrived at school, went upstairs to my locker, and then over to my friends by the window. There were about 5 of us or so there. and we chatted until the warning bell sounded. When we did, we all started to disperse to our classes. The hallways had been really crowded, but things were quickly becoming more quiet. I looked out the window and saw a few kids hurrying in at the last minute to make it to class. Then I saw this one guy hurry into the school. He was too old to be a student, and I didn't recognize him as a teacher. I thought maybe he was a substitute at first, but he was not dressed for the part. He just wore an old baggy-looking sweatshirt and sweatpants. He entered the school on the floor below, and then I headed to my class. I walked through the hallways down towards the other end. My classroom really wasn't that far away, and it was also on the second floor. As I got there, I noticed down at the end of the hallway the same guy who I had seen entering the school was now coming up to the top of the stairs. I went into my classroom at that point. Class went on as usual, as did my next few classes. After that, then came lunch period. I remember that as I was sitting with a couple of my friends at a table, I saw the guy again. He walked briefly into the lunchroom, and then out another way. I was surprised to see him again. And I also thought that it was weird that I even noticed the school that I went to was pretty large with a lot of students, and it would be easy to blend in with a crowd later in the day. In my last hour, we were in class, and about halfway through the phone in the classroom then rang. Our teacher picked it up at the desk. Afterwards, he told us that the school was being locked down. We had to get up and move to the back end of the classroom. Then he locked the doors and turned out the lights to the classroom. We were all really confused. I didn't even think about the guy that I kept seeing around the school earlier. I was as clueless as everybody else. All of us in the class were talking to each other, wondering what was going on. Nobody knew, though the teacher wouldn't tell us either. He just said for us to keep calm and to be quiet. About an hour went by, and finally the lockdown was lifted. We still didn't know what was going on. School was let out, and we all went home. I rode the bus, and when I got home, my mom was there and asked me about the lockdown. She had heard more about it than I did. I found out that a man, the same one who I had seen multiple times in the school, was the cause of it. During the last class period of the day, he was seen suspiciously walking down a hallway. The school was then locked down. Police were called, but unfortunately the man was able to escape through an open window. Nobody knew who he was. I told my mom that I had seen the guy enter the school and had seen him again later, multiple times. It blew my mind that the guy was able to fly under the radar for so long. He had been there since the start of the school day, but it wasn't until the last hour that anybody seemingly noticed him. I'm just glad that the guy didn't cause any harm. I don't know who he was or what he was doing. Story 3. It was nearing the end of school. Everyone was on their way to their last period, which for me was history, a class that I not only wasn't good at, but I also disliked the teacher. And at that point, I honestly had no motivation of even showing up, so ultimately I decided to ditch and hide out in one of the bathroom stalls located near the very back of the school. Almost no one went back there, so I figured no one would find out. Anyway, I was in the furthest back stall playing some game on my phone when the ear-deafening sound of the principal coming over the intercom made me jump. Lockdown, lockdown. This is an emergency alert. Please follow lockdown procedures, go into the nearest room or building, lock the door and turn off all light. It was a lockdown announcement, though I honestly didn't pay any attention considering they were all practice. And so I just continued to sit there in the stall and wait. But just then, all the lights to the building seemingly shut off. All at once, the hum of the light faded, along with the buzzing of the AC unit, which meant all the power to the school had been cut off. The bathroom had gone pitch black, and that's when I was actually starting to get worried. Power was never cut off during practice lockdown drills. I texted my friend asking him what was going on, and literally right away he answered back with the text saying, "Dude, where are you? It's a real lockdown. Everyone's asking where you are." I told him I was in the bathroom, and he responds saying, "I should hide, but where else could I go?" I wasn't just going to run out into the hallway to find a better spot. So ultimately I decided to stay and hide in the stall I was in. I turned my phone's brightness down and texted my friend again. I asked him what the reason was for the lockdown, and after 5 long minutes of waiting, he replied saying that apparently there was a kid armed with a knife banging on classroom doors and asking to be let in. Both my classroom and the bathroom I was in were on the same floor, so I turned off my phone and tried my best to see if I could hear anything. There were running footsteps, and that was shortly followed by the sound of the bathroom door opening. I was absolutely horrified at what I was hearing. Whoever entered walked towards the stall next to me, went inside and shut the door. I held my breath for what seemed like forever. Then, to break the silence, in a shaky voice I said, "Who's in here?" It was silent for a second, and then I heard a voice reply with, "I'm just looking for a place to hide." I heard there was a lockdown over the speakers that didn't really answer my question, but the guy sounded around my age, and so I decided I just let it go. We sat in silence for what seemed like forever, when finally we got another announcement telling all students to exit the school in an orderly fashion through the front doors where cops would be waiting outside. I exited the stall, but was surprised to see the guy next to me didn't. I asked him if he was coming, and he replied saying, "Yeah man, just give me a couple minutes." I thought that was weird, but regardless, I left the bathroom and started heading towards the front exit of the school. As I was walking, my phone went off. My friend had texted me. He said that apparently a kid who was maybe a couple years older than us tried to rob a nearby gas station at knife point. The guy actually stabbed a couple people, and when he was unsuccessful in getting any money, he ran to hide in our school to blend in as one of the students. But what horrified me the most was the last sentence. My friend said that the cops outside were saying that the kid was still inside and that he was hiding somewhere in the back of the school. Reading this changed my walk to the front doors into a full-on sprint. Right as I got outside, I would frantically inform one of the police officers of what I had experienced, and after they searched the bathroom, they found it was empty, but that the window inside was broken. The kid had broken and escaped through the window. Needless to say, for the next few school days, I'd gotten a lot of unwanted attention because of what I had experienced. As far as I know, the kid still hasn't been caught, and it's still just difficult for me to come to terms with the fact that I was unknowingly hiding in a stall right next to the guy I was trying to hide from. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to subscribe, like, and follow my other socials down below, and send your true stories to my email down below.